Hey guys, welcome back everybody. Most of the network engineers have configured the IP address on the router. Most of the network engineers have seen the routing table, but anyone has noticed like how does a router build a routing table? So guys, in this video, we are going to discuss like how does a router build a routing table. So let's start it. So if you see right now on this, I have a console access of this router right now. So router has a this interface. We are going to configure the IP address on this interface is 1.1.1 and 1.1.2 on this particular interface. This loopback we have on the router number 2, that's a 2.1/24. And this loopback on the router 1, we have a 1.1/24. Also, we have written the MAC address of this particular interface. Loopback doesn't have a MAC address. So by default on the router, what happened? This command is enabled. If you see right now, IP routing. By default, this command is enabled. What this command does, this command is going to enable the unicast routing table on the router. So take example right now. If I'm going to put the command show IP route, I can see that I have a routing table over here. I don't have a route, of course, but I do have a routing table. But what happens if I'm going to disable this command? I say the no IP routing. If I'm going to disable this command, your routing table will be disappeared. Now you can see the show IP route. I don't have a routing table. Actually, now this router is behave like a PC now. So if you're going to disable this command, right, your routing table will be disappear. And now he will ask you, hey, could you please define me the default gateway? So when you're going to make a router as a PC, you can also use this command line, no IP routing. If you're going to put the no IP routing, it's going to disable the unicast routing table. Right? So take example, let me enable this command. I say the IP routing again now. And if you see do show IP route, now I have routing table. Now he's not asking for the default gateway. In the previous example, if you see, he was asking for the default gateway because now previously it was a PC. Now I have enabled this command line IP routing and now it's behave like a pure router. But I don't have a routes in my routing table. Same like when you're gonna buy a phone, right? You have a phone book, but in the phone book, you don't have any number of there, right? So you are manually fitting the number. Same thing over here, what happened on the router side? You have to manually configure the IP address. Once you configure the IP address, right? Once you configure the IP address on this particular interface, then what happened? Router will find the subnet of that particular IP and they will put that network in the routing table. So let me show you the debug of that one because I cannot, if I'm going to put the, let's take example, I say the interface 0/0, right? I say the IP address will be 1.1.1/8, right? And I put the no shutdown command. I can see now we have a route in the routing table. Do show IP route. I have a routing table. But let me disable this one. I want to show you from the debug line so that you can understand how does the router build a routing table. So let me remove this guy. I say the no IP address. And now if you see the show IP route, I don't have the route in my routing table. I just have a blank routing table. Let me enable the command debug IP routing. And now if you see interface 0/0, right? Let me check what are the interfaces up or not. So it's up, right? Let me make a shutdown. Right. So interface 0/0, IP address will be 1.1.1.1/8. And once I put the command no shutdown, right? What happened? The router will find the subnet for this particular IP and they will add this information in the routing table. So if you see, this is called as our timestamp, right? This is the RT means routing table is up right now for which particular interface? 0/0/0, sorry, 0/0. And we are adding this particular information 1.0/8 in my routing table. Because when you give the IP address on the interface, you define the subnet mask as well, right? So you find the, okay, this is the subnet we have. And I'm adding this information in my routing table via the 0 or 0 or 0 or 0. This 0 or 0 means what? It's a directly connected next hop. It's a directly connected next hop. At the same time, if you see for the connected metric we have, so this is the value for the AD, this is for the metric. So by default for the connected route, right, we have AD is 0 and metric is also 0 on the Cisco iOS. At the same time, if you see, I'm adding this interface in the routing table as well. So whenever any packet, right, The meaning of this line is saying that whenever any packet for this particular network, whenever the router will receive any packet for this particular network, I will forward this packet on this particular interface. Whenever the router will receive any packet for this particular network, I will forward this packet to this particular interface. Interface is like a gate. Like in your home, you have a multiple gates, right? Same like interface, we have a multiple in which interface I need to forward the packet. At the same time, you can see that the interface is off now. So same thing, if I want to disable this thing, let's take example. Right now, you can see that I have this route in my routing table. So IP route, right? What happened if I'm going to say the no IP address, right? If I'm going to remove the IP address from the router, if I'm going to remove the IP address from the route will be deleted from the routing table. So I'm pruning this route, right? And now this information is not there in my routing table. So you can check the routing table, do show IP route. I don't have this one. Let me configure again back. I said the 1.1.1.1/8, right? Already the interface was up. So I don't need to give the no shutdown command. And now if you see, I'm adding this out again back. Let me add the loopback as well. So what I can do that interface loopback number 1, right? Loopback doesn't have a MAC addresses. IP address will be 192.168.1.1/8. And now if you see that this information also there in the routing table now. Again, 0.0 means what? It's directly connecting next hop. For the directly connecting next hop, we have a metric AD is 0 and metric is also 0. And I'm adding this interface in the routing table as well. So that if any packet come for this particular network, I have to route the packet on this particular interface. So now I have this information in my routing table. Right? What happened if I'm going to say the no IP routing? If I'm going to say the no IP routing, it means that what? I'm disabling the routing behavior. So when I say the no IP routing, what happened? Your routing table will be deleted, right? So if you say the IP routing, which is by default enabled on the router side, your routing table will be there. If you say the no IP routing, it means that what? You are deleting the routing table. So if I'm going to delete the routing table, if you see, I'm deleting all the route. This one and this one as well. And now I don't have any route in my routing table. Do so IP route. He's asking for the default gateway because now this router is behaved like a PC. How about the interface now? If you see the interface, I still have a IP address on the interface. Because based on this command, right, I just say that no IP routing. This command is just going to disable the unicast routing table. Again, I'm repeating, this command is just going to disable the unicast routing table. If I'm going to enable it back, I say the IP routing, what happened? Now all the route comes in the routing table. Make sure that this command is only going to enable the unicast routing table for IPv4. So if you look for the multicast right now, let's have a look for the do so IP multicast. Multicast is still disabled. So only enable the unicast routing table for IPv4. Same thing, let's do configuration on the router number 2 as well. On a router number 2, right, I'll just configure the interface 0/0. IP address will be 1.1.1.1/8. And same way the loopback, we have interface loopback number 1. Okay, also duplicate IP address. Let me remove it. I said the IP address will be 1.1.2. No shutdown. Interface loopback number 1. IP address will be 2.1/24. Right? And now, if you see the routing table as well, do so IP route, I have a routing table. If I'm going to say the no IP routing, it's going to disable the routing table. So let's enable it back. And now what I can do that, I'm just going to exchange my routing information. So router 2 has this information, router 1 has this information. Let them exchange it, right? So what I can do that, I'm simply going to configure the router EIGRP protocol, a very simple protocol. 1.0.0.0.0 and network 2.0. Same thing on the router number 1, router EIGRP 1, network 1.0 and network 1.0.0.0. So now you can see that router EIGRP has found the neighborship. And so when the router EIGRP has formed the neighborship, router 2 is going to share this this information 1.2.0.0, and router 1 is going to share this information to the router 2. So when the router 2 is sharing this information to the router 1, if you see, I'm adding this information in my routing table. Why the next stop is what now? 1.1.2. And what is the EIGRP AD value? This is the 90 is the AD value. This is the metric for this one. And now I can see that this information in my routing table. So if I'm going to say that no IP routing, right, what happened? Everything will be gone. Right? Everything. And even in the no IP routing, if you're going to put the command router EIGRP, take example 2, it will say that, hey, IP routing is not enabled. So IP routing must be enabled, right, to create the routing table at the same time if you want to configure the any routing protocol over there. So if I'm going to say the router, IP routing again back, all information come back now. Do show IP route, right? How about the EIGRP? Do show run section EIGRP. It's gone. So let's configure router EIGRP and say the network 1.0 and network 1.0.0.0.0. One last point about this command, IP routing. This command is a hidden command. Hidden means what? You cannot see this command in the running config. If you put the command so run, right? Right, I can see that some versions we have service timestamp, host name, right? IPsec we have, no IP domain lookup we have, right? Interface IP addresses we have. EIGRP configuration I have. But IP routing command is not there. So this command is a hidden command.